I want to introduce myself. My name is Cindy Jenkins. I'm the Assistant City Manager here for the City of Tucker. And I am excited to be here tonight to show you the Trail Master Plan. We have kicked this off. The city has several different plans that are underway. One of the things that I did want to point out is that there is information about all of these planning studies on the city's website. If you look up here, there is a little box in the bottom right-hand corner that talks about the citywide planning studies. It's on the home screen so that you can get to it quite easily. If you click on Read More, it will launch you to a page that talks about the planning studies. This shows the 5 different planning studies that are underway. So if you're looking for more information or were not aware that we were doing all the studies that we are, you can get more information about them here. The information from tonight's meeting will also be located under the Trail Master Plan here on the website. And also we are recording this, so if you wanted to look at it also, the presentation will be there as well. I also wanted to point out that there are flyers on the back. So it talks about all the other public information meetings that are coming up. We want to make sure that you are involved in all the plans and the studies that are underway. We're looking for lots of public feedback. We want to be able to incorporate your comments and your excitement as part of this as well. So to get things started, I do want to introduce all of the Trail Master Plan Committee members. Can y'all please stand? We appreciate all the hard work. They have been meeting and working with our consultants to help prepare the presentation for tonight and for you to see the recommendations that we're presenting. And so no further ado, I'm going to introduce Greta and Ed and let them take it off and show you exactly what our presentation is about.
Well, thank you, Cindy. I'm Ed McBray. I'm the Executive Director and one of the founders of the PATH Foundation. Hopefully y'all are aware of PATH a little bit. We built the Silver on the Stone Mountain Trail out here is one of the first trails built in the metropolitan area, and that was back before the Olympics. I want to introduce our team, Greta DeMayo and Nico and Allison and my construction manager, Jonathan, the tall guy in the corner. So if anybody has any trouble, I'm a little taller than Cindy, so if I want to get closer to the mic, let me know, and we'll go from there. So
Thanks for letting us know.
keep in mind that this is our best guess at what, based on our expertise of doing this for about 40 different cities and counties now. This is our best stab at trying to retrofit Tucker with a trail system. And we've been guided by the steering committee that stood up a few minutes ago. So it's a combined effort of our team on the ground and the steering committee sort of morphing what we came up with into what you're going to see tonight. So the presentation outline, we'll be doing. I've already done the introduction. We'll be telling you about the benefits of trails in general. We'll be talking about our approach to planning trail system. We'll be talking about the preliminary trail alignment that we're proposing, and I'm going to turn it over to Greta when we get to that point. We'll talk about the next steps and the schedule for moving forward, and then we'll open up to questions and answers. So that's me up there. I'm the old geezer that's building trails all over Georgia. And, this is Greta DeMayo, the prettier part of our duo here, and she has her own firm here based right on Main Street here in Tucker, and she does most of the trail planning and actually the design work for trails that PATH builds. So I'll introduce you to PATH a little bit here. We're a 501c3, so expect everybody to put money in the bucket as you leave today. So we operate, we use public money and we match money that we raised from the private sector to build trails. We built over 280 miles of trails since our inception back in 1991. We've raised about $80 million from the private sector to match about $130 million from the public sector to do the trails. So you can do the math. We've built about 280 miles of trail, and we've raised about $210 million. So you can see our average cost per mile. So everybody's always asking me, that's probably $800,000 a mile. Now, all trails don't cost that, but for example, the Path 400 trail we're building along Georgia 400 right now is costing about $5 million a mile. So Kaizen Collaborative, that's my consultants here that we work with on a daily basis. They've designed most of our trails and master plan. Like I say, Greta and I are on I think it's our 40th master plan now. We've recently completed our master plans for the city of Decatur, the city of East Point, Clayton County, and so on. And we've gone as far away as St. Simon and Beaufort, South Carolina, and over into Mississippi doing master plans. We're doing a master plan now for Jacksonville, Florida, for example. So I'll show you, this is like showing you my grandkids, show you a few pretty pictures of path projects in other areas. This is the Path 400 trail that we're building behind the sound wall. Georgia DOT was gracious enough to allow us to share their right-of-way so that this corridor can become totally multimodal. We got MARTA going down the center, and the traffic that you know about, and music for and the Path 400 trail behind the sound wall. And this is the Atlanta Beltline. Most of y'all know that. We built all the sections of the Atlanta Beltline until recently, and the Atlanta Beltline built the Southwest Beltline without us, but we built the East Side Trail, and we built the other segments of the Beltline that have been built. This is Path Parkway down by Georgia Tech. We took 2 lanes out of the Georgia Tech Parkway and converted it to a bikeway and a pedestrian way, and made the street a 2-lane street going to Coca-Cola. And most of y'all that do the Stone Mountain Trail know that we were successful finally after 11 years in getting our bridge over 285. I'm really about 40 years old. I just look this way because I fought these all these battles. And this is the Silver Comet Trail. Up until recently, it was the longest paved trail in the United States, but it's number 2 now with a bullet, and we're getting ready to extend it into Atlanta very soon. But I spent 10 years of my life out there building the Silver Comet Trail. It's about 93 miles long when you couple it with the trail over in Alabama. Carrollton Greenbelt. If you haven't been to Carrollton recently, we built an 18-mile loop all the way around the city of Carrollton, and it's a tourist destination now. It's great to go spend time in downtown Carrollton and ride the Greenbelt all the way around. Raby Mountain Trail System, you probably know about. It goes from the Monastery of the Holy Spirit up to Lithonia and all the way in toward Panola Shoals. We've got 34 miles of continuous trail out there. We built the Beaufort, South Carolina. We built the Spanish Moss Trail. We built wellness trails for hospitals over in Mississippi. We're building trails now in Columbus, LaGrange, Noonan, East Point. We're not good. So anyway, we've got projects going all over the place. So I'm going to talk about benefits of trails now for just a minute. Most of y'all realize that trails are beneficial, but in case you hadn't thought about some of the things, trails promote economic development. The Atlanta Beltline is probably the poster child for that claim. All the activity going around the Beltline and all the the stores and shops that are turning their face toward the trail, and all the apartment complexes and condos and everything being built along there. It's just what younger people want to do. They want a trail-type lifestyle, and that's what we're finding in all these cities that we're building in, not just the Beltline. Trails attract businesses and attract the employers that want to follow the educated youth and young people that enjoy the trails, and it increases revenue. People use the stores more. I can remember talking about the Beltline before we ever started building it, of how all those shops and everything along at Monroe and 10th Street down there were going to end up having a door facing the Beltline. And sure enough, if you go over there now, nobody even goes in the front door. Everybody comes off the Beltline. Something we didn't really think about when we were first building trails, we were doing it as alternate transportation, but hospitals and doctors and everything and the general public has realized now what a health benefit trails are, because if you bring a recreational facility closer to people's homes, they're much more likely to use it than if they've had to get in their car and travel to a gym or travel to a boot camp or something like that. So we find that if we put a trail in a neighborhood, the neighborhood gets healthier. Their cholesterol goes down, and there's all kinds of studies, and if you're interested in reading those studies, then I'll be happy to furnish, I'll give you I've got a contact slide here at the end, and you can contact me and I'll send you the studies. But there are studies all over the country now that show that proximity to the trail increases, enhances the overall health of the community. Trails, and they still promote active transportation. Coca-Cola, for example, built a brand new facility for bike storage and lockers and showers and everything, based on the fact that we just finished the Parkway right in front of the Coca-Cola headquarters down there, and there's a ton of people from West Midtown now riding their bikes to Coca-Cola rather than getting in a car. And also there's a lot of people that can't afford a car. I mean, all of us probably have cars, but when you get into the poor areas of town, trails end up being a transportation, not of choice necessarily, but of necessity. And so we're happy to the fact that we built trails in every council district in the city of Atlanta and all through DeKalb County in not so good areas that people actually use the trail to go to the store and to go to their neighbor's house and go to school and that type of thing. And just overall, trails enhance the quality of life. I was interested in an article in the paper this past week that said that a major corporation made their decision to move to Atlanta based on the fact that there were bicycle and pedestrian facilities in most parts of town. I kind of took the compliment, even though they didn't say half, but it's obvious that people like Amazon and people like NCR and all those corporations recognize the benefits of trails, and they want to have their employees happy and healthy and everything. So trails attract major employers to communities. So our planning approach, how do we do this? I have to say, and this is not a dig against any particular consultant, but most consultants these days are either transportation consultants or they're economic development consultants or whatever, and they don't really approach things like Greta and I do. PATH and Kaizen come together, and we actually get out in the field and we take construction people, we take engineers, and walk in the kudzu and under bridges and along streams and everything, trying to find out where you can really put trails rather than just drawing trails between destinations where people think they want to go. There's no sense in us planning a bunch of trails that you can't build, possibly, or you can't build it without millions and millions of dollars. So we're not going to put a line on the map if it's not feasible. So we go out and spend about a week or so in a community riding around backing up and going down little country roads, going behind buildings, going, walking under underpasses, under 285 and around streams and everything, trying to find ways to retrofit your community with trails. So anything you see on the screen tonight is, we think it's feasible. We don't think, it's not just lines on a map, desire lines on a map. Because trails really don't have eminent domain. So I don't have, I see Ms. Nesbitt back here in the corner. DOT has the ability to just plan a road right through everything and then have eminent domain and take land if they need it. Trails usually don't have that prerogative. So trails are usually dependent on landowners giving easements and stuff like that. So we have to plan most of it on public-owned land and then hope that those people are going to give us easements to connect the dots. So we have we set up steering committee meetings because Brett and I don't want to go off willy-nilly and plan something in the community that there's not representatives in the community that kind of support what we're doing. So we start off by offering our services and we come up with a scope of work, and then we help set up a planning committee. We told the city of Tucker what kind of people ought to be on our planning committee. Some city staff, some people from representatives of each neighborhood. If you can get police and fire on the steering committee so that we design it so that they can access the trails, it's good. We want somebody from parks. We want somebody from public works. We want a real estate appraiser or a real estate agent if we can get one that knows the people and knows the parcels and knows the value of the land. So that's how we make up a steering committee, and the city of Tucker went out and taking our advice and put together a steering committee. We have meetings with different stakeholders, like we've met with GDOT, we've met with Oglethorpe Power and people like that are along the way, so that we kind of get some idea of whether they're going to cooperate or not. And then we go out and do our field work like I talked about, and this is part of the public outreach tonight. So we are proposing some stuff tonight for you to look at, and we need your feedback on, yeah, that one kind of works and that one kind of doesn't. Did you think about doing it this way or that way? Because obviously the steering committee and Brother and I can't think of everything. So this is your community, and we want to do it with you, not to you. So we want your feedback, and we really are going to try to figure out how to do it like you want to do it. Let's talk about bicycles for a minute, because a lot of times when we're planning things, the first question out of the chute is, those damn people in spandex, or let's just get them off the road or put them on the interstate and we'll get run over. I mean, nobody really has a kind word for the spandex crowd, and I occasionally am the spandex crowd, so I feel bad that you guys don't like us. But I want to explain to you who we're designing these trails for. So this is a national study. This is not something we made up. 1% of the population will go out here in the middle of La Vista at rush hour on a bicycle and make a left-hand turn in the lane and just sit there and just dare everybody to run over them. And that's 1% of the population. 7% of the population of the bicycle riders in the United States, or the population, are perfectly willing to plan their trips using roads. They don't need a trail. They'll use one occasionally if there's one available, but typically they're willing to think about going from Tucker to North Lake and not even think about a trail. They're just willing to go on the road. They'll find the back way sometimes, but they're on the road. There's 60% of us that, and I include myself in that because I mostly ride on trails now. 60% of us would ride a bicycle for recreation, or would ride a bicycle actually to the gym or the store or where the kids go if there was a safe and enjoyable place to do it. In other words, a trail, separated from traffic. In other words, you might have to get into traffic a little bit on on benign roads every now and then, but generally you need a trail. And then there's 33% of the people that the United States that are never going to get on a trail. So I'm going to briefly talk about the types of what's in our tool chest. What type of facilities can we offer Tucker to retrofit your community trails? And the one that everybody wants and that we want to plan is really a Greenway Trail, like the Stone Mountain Trail. That was built on the old trolley line that used to run between Decatur and Stone Mountain. We don't have trolley lines, we don't have abandoned rails in Tucker, so we're having to retrofit using different tool sets. So there's not going to be a whole lot of Greenway Trails in Tucker. I mean, parks and a few places that Greta and I have eked out along the property lines, and hopefully people will give the city of Tucker easements to do it. But Greenway Trails is what everybody wants to do. These are some ideas of what Greenway Trails: Stone Mountain Trail, the Silver Comet Trail, the Arabian Mountain Trail, even the Path 400. That's a Greenway Trail. So that's where Greta and I start out trying to find places we can put Greenway Trails for you guys to get around in Tucker. The second type are shared use streets. Basically, it's called Werniff, and after some guy named Werniff, I guess. Right? So, anyway, they're used a lot in Europe, and basically, Greta and I helped design. I'm sorry, it was a different consultant. Okay. Anyway, I helped design the Avondale MARTA Station TOD that's being built, and there's going to be basically a Werniff from the MARTA Station to the East Decatur Greenway. And what it basically means is everybody it's kind of a free-for-all. So the cars have to go really slow. There might be benches and flower pots and poles and all that kind of stuff in the plaza area. People can ride their bike through it, people can walk through it, and cars have to go through it very slowly. So that's one thing that we're going to talk about a little bit. And here's some examples of it. Most of the Werniffs have been done in Europe, but there are several.
Listen, folks, anyone who's standing in the back corner over here, I'm going to have to ask you to either go into the overflow next door or in the hallway, because it's a fire hazard and we have to have an escape route. So I apologize for any inconvenience, but if you're standing over in the corner, it's available on Facebook Live, or like I said, there's still seats available over in the overflow next door.
It's on
Thank
Facebook
you.
Live.
I don't make those
There's some of these people I don't want behind me.
Sorry, it's your steering committee.
Okay, then there's side paths. So part of the Stone Mountain Trail is a side path. If you get past west of Mountain Industrial, you'll notice there's a side. It's kind of a wide sidewalk that follows the road. Greta and I try to maintain at least 5 feet separation so you don't relate directly to the traffic. But sometimes that's the only right-of-way you got into, especially when we're retrofitting. Public right-of-way is hard to come by. So the side path is something we have to use, particularly between Greenway Trails when we're trying to make a connection. And there's my best example of that is on the right-hand side here. This is where we took lanes out of Highland down where George Baptist Hospital used to be, and extended the Stone Mountain Trail all the way into downtown Atlanta. You can tell there used to be a travel lane there, and we made a buffer area with trees, and you can tell that it used to be a sidewalk about where the guy and woman are walking. So that's the side path. And then the Beltline that we built out in southwest Atlanta back before the Beltline, east side Beltline was built, was a side path as well. And then there's something called a neighborhood greenway, when we just have to punt and there's not the money to do a Werniff, and there's not room for a side path, and there's a bunch of driveways and everything. We just designate certain benign low traffic, low volume, slow streets, neighborhood streets, as being the connection. In other words, we try to make the stop signs favor that street. We try to take away parking at least on one side. We might have the amenities associated with a trail on that street. So we try to designate and have the signage so that you can use that street and you wouldn't be afraid, you'd be in that 60%, you wouldn't be afraid to take your family down that street on a bicycle and you wouldn't be worried about getting run over. So that you use the public street as a trail basically and allow cars on it. So that's kind of the low end of the spectrum for us. We don't do bike lanes, we don't do anything painted on the street. Cities and counties can do that. They don't need Greta now for that. So if Cindy wants to go and stripe every street in Tucker, that's okay for us, but it's not what we're about. So I'm going to turn it over to Greta now. I'm sure y'all are tired of hearing me anyway. But the Tucker Master Plan, we're going to show you the preliminary findings, and you see the boards back here. And I will tell you this, that we started out with this. We know we got the Stone Mountain Trail, and we want to connect you to that. Ultimately, we want to connect you to the Wilburn Greenway, or have Gwinnett connect you down there. And then Jonathan and I are building, where Jonathan went, but anyway, Jonathan and I are building the Peachtree Creek Greenway for Brookhaven. We opened bids yesterday, and we should start construction about December 1st, building between Buford Highway and I-85 from Century Plaza all the way down to the Beltline ultimately. So with that, I'll turn it over to Greta and let her tell you about our findings.
It's always great to see such a good turnout, mostly in our own community, and I applaud everybody for being patient and having to shuffle everybody in the overflow. I guess you can see us and hear us. This will be posted on the city's website. We will continue to take comments through the end of, I think the date that we have in the presentation is November 2nd. So if somebody was not able to attend tonight, please direct them there to be able to see the presentation and to be able to give comments. This slide shows pretty much our study area. So we're looking throughout the city limits, and also obviously when we're looking at trail connectivity, we're looking at a larger scale. So who all has used the Wilburn Greenway? Raise your hand. Okay. And who all has used the Stone Mountain Path? Great. Now, wouldn't it be great if we had connectivity through Tucker that actually regionally connected to both of those trails? Yes. Yes. And there's also the big movement Ed was just speaking about, the city of Brookhaven. They're doing their portion of the Peachtree Creek Greenway. That's about to start. They did a similar process, I want to say 2015 they did their master plan, and this is their model project. It's taken them a little bit to get it going as a new city, but I'm challenging us as a new city to be able to do that a little bit faster with our model project. So as we're looking in the study area, obviously all the feedback we're getting is, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go in Tucker? Everybody wants to go downtown Tucker. And so that became kind of the central element within what we're presenting tonight with our preliminary findings. And when we call these our preliminary findings, it's because it's still a work in progress. That's why we're presenting to you tonight, and we're wanting to get your feedback. This is what the preliminary findings are looking like as a big picture. It actually entails about 30 miles of trails is what's shown on this graphic here. So, and you know, ultimately the goal is to become a more walkable, bikeable community. To be able to, in the metro Atlanta area, traffic congestion is an issue. We're not going to solve that. But how do we make our community what we want it to be? and how do we become together as a community. So as I'm going to walk through this, we've divided it into, I think, 7 or 8 segments. We're going to start with looking at the downtown to what we're calling the John Homestead Park location. And so this runs on the north side of the railroad corridor. It's not looking at acquiring any property from the railroad, because Ed can tell you that we would all not live to see that ever to happen. So as we're coming out of downtown, out of Main Street, we're proposing some ideas that the city is going to also, in their downtown master plan study that they're just starting, we're going to be able to have the opportunity to kind of complement. And one of the good things about Tucker as a city right now is the parallel planning processes that are going on, and how each consultant is working with the other consultants to kind of bring all the plans together. So as we go through, we've had the transportation planning group. I know Tim's not here, but they have a representative here tonight. Okay, great. And then the park master plan is going on at the same time. So those are two that we're kind of intertwining. Within your parks is where they're going to plan what trails would be there. So you'll see in our presentation tonight, we just have arrowheads that kind of show the intent. The intent always is to connect our parks throughout our city. So as we start with segment 1, we're looking at the downtown area. We're looking kind of at the alleyway that comes from Main Street, and currently there was a study that the CID did on looking at parking in downtown. And so we've been talking about, well, is there an opportunity to extend the alleyway and to get this great bike pedestrian connection from Main Street over to 2nd Street? And so we've kind of looked at a few concepts on how to do that, and that's what we're proposing as a connection from Main Street. This is a view. This is from Railroad Avenue. This is right behind Local 7. And so the existing alley is kind of located in this picture. And then we're proposing to have kind of this north-south alley connection and also an east-west connection. The great thing about this is you're separated from vehicular traffic on this, so that you're not going to have conflicts. There will be a crossing at 2nd Avenue, but as we continue, then we're going over to Fellowship. And Fellowship gives us the grade where we can actually bridge over Fellowship. And so, again, working outside the railroad right-of-way there to be able to put in just really an iconic bridge for the And again, most Greenway Trails, the great thing is if you don't have to stop and wait to cross a road. You know, anytime we can bridge across or get a separated crossing is what Ed and I are going to look for. As we continue with this segment, we're coming over to kind of the Crescent Center Boulevard. So has everybody gone down Crescent Center Boulevard? It's so interesting because the road doesn't go all the way through. And for that reason, it almost feels like it's an abandoned road. And so we want to capture this space for the trail to provide not only an east-west connection so that you could get under 285. We feel right now that there's enough right-of-way outside the railroad, under the road bridge, to be able to work with GDOT, to be able to be outside the railroad right-of-way to get under the highway, but also to be able to utilize part of this extra wide road, Crescent Center Boulevard, to be able to have a side path. So this graphic kind of shows both those connections, as the trail would be able to connect down towards John Homestead Park and then also connect under 285 towards North Lake Mall area. And then as we come down the city street, the Cemetery Avenue, goes right through the cemetery. It's the city right of way. And we would like that to be a shared street so that the bicycle and pedestrians could come through and be able to connect down to Lawrenceville Highway. And then at Lawrenceville Highway, this is existing condition. It just would cost so much to bridge over and almost impossible to tunnel under. So what we're proposing here is a signalized crossing just for the trail. And so that we refer to a lot of times as a hawk signal. If you hear somebody say that, it is a pedestrian bicycle activated signal that would stop the traffic to be able to come across. We're going to go to segment number 2. This is kind of in north of downtown area. This provides what I think is a really exciting kind of loop in the downtown area. Anytime that you can get on a trail and not have to backtrack, it's a lot of fun. It's great to be able to start in one location and then go all the way around. If you haven't been to Carrollton, Georgia, I would highly recommend it. They were able to accomplish in 5 years as a small town, 18-mile loop around their downtown. And so it's really a great experience if you haven't gone out there. So I see this as kind of our little loop. And this is on the north side of Main Street looking at Tucker High School. Main Street right now is a transition for the trail. You're very comfortable on Main Street if you're a pedestrian on the sidewalk. The traffic goes pretty slow, so if you're a bicyclist, once you get to Main Street, you would transition to a shared condition and be on the road on Main Street. The reason being is that the parking on Main Street is something that, we need. And we don't want to have conflicts between bicyclists and parked cars. So we need to kind of let the bicyclists share the road. So you'll see a little bit of this transition as we come from Main Street and we're heading over towards Tucker High School. Your transition and the bicyclist is transitioning to the trail on the north side there. And then the pedestrians coming across, and it becomes a trail connection along the east side of the high school. This is another vision graphic showing that, how the trail would come down along the school. The trail would connect up to Kelly Cofer Park after there, but we're going to go down real quick and we're going to look at the other side of Main Street, the other side of the alley that comes in. This is where the farmers market is set up right now. We have different events there. It's got the Masons Square area. And we just put together a graphic to show how we could do a combined one or kind of shared street. It could also be one like we currently use today, where you could close it for festivals and really have a central community spot within the downtown area. So we wanted to feature that. Again, that will be worked through with the downtown master plan, and we'll work with that consultant to try to make sure we have good pedestrian bicycle connectivity that comes through downtown. But we feel like this east-west connection coming across Main Street really presents a lot of opportunity. Then we're going to go to segment 3. And segment 3 is Stone Mountain to downtown. So many people use the Stone Mountain Trail, and what's the fastest way to get there? And so that was kind of what we were challenged with, is how do you get from downtown to the Stone Mountain Trail? And this is information that the steering committee shared with us. We got great feedback on to be able to use the South Fork Peachtree Creek corridor. To be able to connect to Peters Park. Who's been to Peters Park? Wow, more people than I realized. It's kind of isolated. So, being able to connect Peters Park really takes another one of our park jewels as a city and ties it into our trail system. The challenge is always the highway. So when we get down to Stone Mountain Freeway, we're thinking, okay, how do you get across? I mean, Ed and I, crawled under stuff and over stuff, and it is just a huge challenge. So we figured out about this alignment, we think that this is the preferred alignment that we're presenting tonight. We're going to start looking at it down at the existing trail there on East Ponce. And this is where the Tucker connection would tie into the Stone Mountain Trail. It would then come up, it's going to come along some abandoned rail corridor and then behind the Macy's facility there at the Stone Mountain Middle School property. This is a view of the Stone Mountain Middle School property, working with the school to have the trail complement their needs and be able to provide that connectivity. Then we get to 78. And it's like, okay, this is what it looks like today. Idlewood. Idlewood today is scary even on the road. It's so skinny to come across whether you're walking or biking. So we really just don't have room on the existing road bridge. And so this is where we do feel like it is a good investment to be able to separate the trail from the traffic and be able to get this great connection from Tucker to the Stone Mountain Trail. As we come up, we're looking at trying to get back into downtown. And I know Ed spoke about the Beltline and economic development and all of those benefits. And as a new city, the city is having a lot of conversations about downtown and what's unique about Tucker. And I think we all know there's such great unique elements about Tucker. So this connection is looking a little bit back of house of the commercial buildings right there on Idlewood coming into downtown. And how could we get a trail to come through there and really activate some of the back of house that would really be a destination for the trail? To have new restaurants and retail, the opportunities are endless. So as we come on up, again, Lawrenceville Highway. Wow, how do you get across the Lawrenceville Highway? Unfortunately, if we can get across at a signal, sometimes that's the best option. And so this is what it looks like today. This view is looking right down Lawrenceville Highway, looking east. Downtown is to your left. And so this would be the other transition where the trail would come to that signalized intersection. It would transition to Main Street. The bicyclist would become a shared condition on Main Street, and the pedestrian would be able to comfortably be on the sidewalk and stop and eat at Matthews. So that's that, and we've got one more. Part of this spur that you're seeing that comes over is going to be tying into the next segment. And one of the things is trying to get the majority, there's so much of the city of Tucker's population that lives in the Smoke Rise neighborhood. Great neighborhood. How do we tie them into downtown? And so when we get to Stone Mountain Industrial Boulevard, it kind of falls apart. And so what we found here is how could we tie them into this South Fork Peachtree Creek connection and then out to Smoke Rise. So right now there is an abandoned rail corridor that starts just north of Sam's. It's in the industrial area. How many people have been to the new brewery off of Bibb? Yeah, would you love to get there on bike or foot? Yes. So, you could start to see.
How about
I don't know if the city gives tickets for drinking and biking, but we won't encourage that. You can Uber and leave your bike. But I really think here again we have some great opportunity. We were talking with what has been now rebranded the new Tucker Summit CID. We met with Emory today and just kind of sharing some of the ideas for this area. So again, industrial areas really lend themselves for new business and new opportunities. And so the trail really becomes that catalyst in our community that sets the stage for this to happen. And as a city, the city has the opportunity to put that in place first. It was almost like, I'm sure the majority of everyone here tonight was here prior to Main Street having the streetscape redone. And you can talk to what that did to downtown. And so I do want to challenge everybody to look at trails in a similar way. If you put in trail infrastructure, you're going to just invite great opportunities for our community and small business. So we're going to go to segment 4. We got a lot of feedback from our steering committee. I'm so glad that, I want to say we have 4 steering committee members that all are property owners and live in Smoke Rise neighborhood. Went out and actually did field work together to be able to generate what we're presenting tonight. So the Hugh Howe corridor, unfortunately, your neighborhoods are wonderful, but as far as having a Greenway Trail, there is limited opportunity. And so the Hugh Howe corridor is a wide corridor with opportunity to almost make a linear parkway. And so what we're proposing is for the trail to be along the Hugh Howe corridor and to connect into, the Sears site with the future development there, to also connect into the new elementary school that'll be built, and to come down. We're showing a spur too, I'm getting ahead of myself, but right here is kind of the view where the church is, where the new school would be. The Greenway would be a side path through here. We always want to have a minimum separation of 5 feet from the road curb. And what that does, even though we didn't put it into this vision graphic, is it does allow for us to get a tree typically within that space. It's more inviting with you and your children using a trail. If you have something vertical that you feel is giving you some protection with traffic. So Ed and I have learned early on that there's certain ways that you design side paths and there's certain ways you don't. And we feel that the Hugh Howe right-of-way gives you just a wonderful opportunity to do a quality trail connection. As you come down, we're showing the connection and a crossing at the intersection at Silver Hill. With the repurposing of the elementary school, I would hope that it would become, some public use, continue to be public use. Having a trail connection still to that property would be a beneficial thing. We would cross over Hugh Howe Road at this intersection to be able to tie into the Smoke Rise Park, and then be able to put in a side path to be able to connect into the Smoke Rise Elementary School. From there, everyone in the Smoke Rise neighborhood, you have great streets, you have a great street grid with low volume and low speed. When we come into neighborhoods like that, we feel that you're comfortable to be able to come out on your neighborhood street and then connect into the trail system. And so that's one of the benefits of the Hugh Howe corridor, is it's centrally located where from both sides of Smoke Rise you can come to the trail system and then go from there. So go from there. We kept hearing, well, if we want to go from there, we want to go to Stone Mountain Park. Okay, if you're going to do this, we've got to have a true destination. And I've heard, I know I don't look as old as Ed, but we go way back, and we know the history. We master planned the DeKalb County Trail Master Plan in 2000. We understand the money that was earmarked for the Hugh Howe corridor. I think at that point we didn't have a great connection. We have a great connection to present today, and this is something that I think Jennifer, for being involved and kind of doing field work with us. As you're coming from Hugh Howe, I'll go back real quick. So from Hugh Howe at Wilburn Stone Mountain Road, Hugh Howe comes in and basically has your access ramps that get to 78. And so this is what that is showing. So if you go to the right, you're going 78, and you're heading back in towards Atlanta. If you go to the left, you're going 78 and you're heading towards Gwinnett. So what we are proposing is to come through here with a trail, again, to have, you know, this is something we would work with GDOT and have to work hand in hand to make happen, but we do feel that it is a wonderful opportunity and it is feasible. There would be a hawk signal there where you would push the button to kind of stop the traffic. That access to 78 still has plenty of distance to get up to speed and get onto the highway. As we come through, this was the exit from Stone Mountain that is not really used. Nobody really even knows where it is within the mountain, within the park. Now, during events, we feel like you could close this off and still have the vehicular access to be able to come out of the park and get on 78. But why not utilize it for bike pedestrian connectivity right now? It's an underused road. It does get us under 78. Again, we're challenged by identifying opportunities to get to the Stone Mountain Trail. And so we're proposing to come under. This is after you come under, and this is going right into the park. So this is kind of the back exit of the park that is used by people who work there because they know the park and they know how to get out quickly. But we feel like you could still have part of that as an exit, and it could still continue west towards the Gwinnett direction, and, you know, utilize the other side to be able to have the bike pedestrian connection into the park. One thing I do want to point out here before we go to this next segment is what we were just looking at along Hugh Howell Road connecting into Stone Mountain Park. If you look at what currently PATH has put in place with the Stone Mountain Trail, and then you come up that other connection, you have a wonderful loop trail system there. And it probably, I think, Stephen, we were talking, I still haven't measured it, it's probably, 9 miles? Which is a very comfortable recreational loop to do. I think loops do have high use, and you can start to see how this becomes just a unique element for the city of Tucker. So as we go on, we're looking at segment 5. That's trying to provide another connection within an area that we felt between Lawrenceville Highway and 78. You know, those neighborhoods, how could we connect those neighborhoods in? Ed presented the tool that we use called a neighborhood greenway. Again, sometimes within your neighborhood streets, you're just looking to delineate so that the vehicular user knows that they're going to come across pedestrians and bicyclists on that roadway. And so a lot of this really is a neighborhood greenway, just being able to delineate a connection so that the neighborhood has a route to get over to the Southport Peachtree Creek kind of segment, or over to where John Homestead Park is. And so one area too, we really looked at a lot of the schools. We wanted to connect into a lot of the schools, safe routes to schools. What makes a great community is being able to have your kids be able to walk to school, or at least have the option to walk to school. And so Brockett Elementary School is one of the central elements in this segment. We would look at a side path along Brockett Road to be able to connect into the school. And then we were looking up on the west side. So we all know there's coming opportunities with what's going to happen with North Lake Mall, what's going to happen over there. And so part of our plan is to really give the tools for the city to try to influence with future development, putting trails in. And so as we're looking on kind of the northwest side of Tucker, we're looking at an opportunity to connect over to the Peachtree Creek corridor, the North Fork, which is up in the Mercer area, to be able to come down, connect into Henderson Middle School, to be able to tie into North Lake and the mall. Again, we were trying to get another central connection back to what we were proposing east-west from downtown, and that was the Midvale Road. Midvale Road has some great sidewalks right now. We don't think it would take much to be able to put in just a great side path and be able to have a connection along Midvale. The next one is looking at North Lake Parkway. The ramps to 285 are only on the north side, and so we feel that the Parkway has an opportunity to be able to really accommodate a really nice side path to make a connection from, again, across the highway. We're so challenged by our highways and our major roads, and we feel that this is a great opportunity to get the North Lake area tied back from one side of 285 to the other. And then the last segments are a little bit scattered, but they're kind of the north and northeastern area of town. Again, we have great neighborhoods and neighborhood streets that we would propose neighborhood greenway connections. Henderson Park being the largest city park within, Tucker, just has great opportunities. I think most people don't understand what jewels are within Henderson Park. I guess I have dreams of one day of children being able to play with their neighbor children, but be able to get from one side of the park to the other safely. So we're showing just connections in. This is the community garden. I think everybody knows the community garden, some of the great trails they've got put in place. Being able to have a controlled crossing there to be able to really not only get to the park from the neighborhood street, but also try to calm some of the traffic along Henderson Road. Those are opportunities. There's no reason to go real fast on Henderson Road. And then we come over and we're looking at Kelly Kofer Park, opportunities to connect into Kelly Kofer with the pond there. And I know Ed showed some great boardwalk opportunities with what has been built down at Panola Mountain, Arabia Mountain area that would give you a good idea of how you can really have observation of some of these great ponds and opportunities. And so that comes to the very end. I know I went through that pretty quickly. It was a lot of information. I'm going to come back to this slide. We're going to open it up for questions and answers, and I know who's going to be my first one, but give me just a second. And I do want to go through our next steps in our schedule real quick so everybody is informed on where we are in our planning process. Again, please go to the website to be able to view this again and to be able to give further comment. Everyone should have gotten an agenda tonight. At the bottom does have an opportunity for you to leave comment tonight. We know that not everybody is comfortable getting up at a mic and asking a question. So we want everybody to be able to leave comments. So if you do leave, we'll just have a stack back in the back that you can leave comments from the piece of paper that you got for the agenda. We will collect comments through November 2nd through the city's website. We'll be working feverishly to incorporate all the comments to finalize the draft master plan so that we can present it to City Council and for their consideration and their comment. We also, within the master plan, will identify a model project. And so we really want to come out of the planning process with a project getting started and have something that's implemented so that by this time next year, you might be on a trail. Wouldn't that be great? So we do have one more steering committee meeting. That'll be on November 13th. We will go through all the comments with the steering committee. We will show them kind of the rough draft of the master plan. Again, it's a working document. And then our city council work session presentation has been scheduled for December 10th. So that's our time frame for that.